Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Hello and happy Giving Tuesday. I'm Nikki Medoro. This is the Nikki Medoro Show. Good morning, my friend Kim McAllister.
Good morning to you. How's it going?
You know, it's another chilly day around the bay. We're so freaking spoiled, though. I'm telling you, I was listening to this ad on Channel 2, KTVU, and they're talking about the weather. They're like, when it's nice in the Bay Area, it's really nice. But when the weather gets bad, and I'm like, it's still freaking nice. Like really? Like in the Bay Area, are we really dealing? Unless there's a major storm, I guess it's supposed to rain, possibly a little bit tomorrow. I'm checking my weather forecast for tomorrow. At least here in San Jose, it's supposed to be nice. Tomorrow, 35% of San Francisco may see some rain, and that's it until next Wednesday.
Okay.
And then here in San Jose, nope. 0 rain on my forecast. So I think we're going to get missed by this very weak storm system. But it's still friggin' cold. You know, my old place, Kim, I used to be able to park my car in the garage. I'm not able to do this in this new rental house. It sucks really, really badly because I hate having to park outside because it's cold. But it's okay. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Coming up, we will talk about the fact that today is Giving Tuesday. So there's a bunch of tips, tricks, how not to get scammed. Today's a huge scam day for a lot of people. It's also Travel Tuesday. They're also saying that it's a day where you can look for good deals on flights, so keep that in mind. Speaking of scams, though, this report from ABC7 I want to touch on. I've never really heard of this before, but I guess it's a thing. It's called SIM swapping, where basically scammers can basically get control of your phone. And this poor woman.
How do they get a hold of your SIM card or whatever it is?
Exactly. I think from what I understand, they cell phone company into believing they're you lost your SIM card or was damaged, and then they get sent another SIM card.
Oh, no.
So then it's basically controlling you. So I have some tips on how to protect yourself coming up. And then there's this whole thing about if you've updated your iPhone, this name drop feature. Which I will say, on one hand, I hate when things are you have to opt out. I should have to opt into stuff like this. But apparently there's a lot of freaking out going on because the police have been warning people. And I sat down with my husband and I asked him, I'm like, have you had any names? He's like, oh, yeah, it happens to my phone all the time. But there is something to keep in mind before you start freaking out about the fact that this is on your phone. Although I still maintain, Apple, stop opting me into things. Ask me first before it's turned on. We'll talk about MTG. The book that sucks. Like, who could have seen that coming? George Santos is becoming a LARPer. Do you know what a LARPer is, Kim?
No.
LARPing. Do you know what LARPing is?
No idea.
LARP. Live action role play. Okay.
Oh.
And apparently he'll be LARPing in Congress because he's still allowed to do a bunch of other stuff. If we have time, I saw this really sad. I don't know why it's sad. I mean, I understand, first world problems. Linda Evangelista. She was a huge model, especially our generation, Kim. She was one of the first supermodels along with Cindy Crawford and others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, she has said that she is no longer interested in dating. She's not a hermit. She's definitely coming out because remember, she had that botched procedure called cool sculpting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And what it did to her body is like horrible. It's a kind of there's always a chance it could happen, but it's a very small percentage. Well, it happened to one of our supermodels. And now she says she doesn't want to sleep with anybody anymore. And when we talk about it, if we have time today, I want to ask, if you're dating somebody and you're really interested in them, could you seriously just not pursue a relationship because you had so many insecurities about your body? Speaking of insecurities, Meta is just filled with bad headlines. There's another lawsuit facing Meta and Instagram. One, Instagram basically promoting adult content to teens and tweens. Also, they knew they knew that they were damaging teens' mental health and still didn't do anything about it. And then also coming up, if we have time towards the end of the show, although I might save this for Friday, but the best and worst remakes of movies. Did you see that people, it's not going to happen at least, but someone was throwing out, I think this was the director of Elf, the casting director was throwing out ideas of who would be Will Ferrell if they remade Elf. I'm going on record, along with many other people, saying do not remake Elf.
No.
It is literally one of my favorite Christmas movies ever.
Yeah.
It was on in the hotel we were at this weekend. I could not stop saying, I love you, I love you, I love you all day. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love Will Ferrell in that movie. I am sorry, there is nobody else that could be Buddy the Elf. And yeah, I'm done with remakes of things. But the reason I also wanted to talk about it is that Christopher Nolan, good director or whatever, he was saying you need to have these remakes. You need to have these franchises because they help, kind of fund or pay for other types of films to be made. So I'll ask you guys, if we get to it today, if not, maybe we'll save it for Friday. What are some of the best and maybe even worst remakes that you've ever seen? So that's a lot of stuff trying to squeeze into the show today. We might get to it all. But before we do any of that and get to the headlines, please click that thumbs up button to show your support for the show. It helps us out. The super chat is also live. And I want to thank Jim, who came in before the show even began with a $5 super sticker.
Yay.
We love you, Jim. Thank you so much, my friend. So yeah, you just look for the $sign under the live chat box, and that's how you can donate to our super chat. Another way, the number one way, in all honesty, to support the show is by going to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Our Patreon link is there. You could sign up for any amount that you want to, whatever you can afford. If you want to break it down by days, how many times do you watch a month? If you throw us $1 for every time or $5 every time, whatever you could afford, we appreciate because we're 100% crowdfunded. If PayPal is the way you like to share money or send money, just go to paypal.com, hit the button that says send, and then put in the email address on your screen, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. The merch shop is up and running. We have some holiday and some fun t-shirts that I've added to the show besides the stuff with our show logo. So just go to theNikkiMedoroShop.com. And I actually got, count them, 1, 2 people to join me in my love of the bidet, Kim McAllister.
Oh, did you now?
Yes, I got some messages from people saying, I'm buying it. So if you want to see that and more from my list of favorite things, just go visit my link tree. The link is also in the show notes as well.
I had a question regarding the bidet that came in from a family member yesterday.
Okay.
And he asks you, Nikki, what happens, not to drag this whole topic back up, but here I go again.
It is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So go ahead.
What happens after the cold blast of water hits your nether regions? This is a common
question, right?
And then you're all
your butt's wet. Yeah, your butt's wet.
So then do you have to wipe anyway because you have to, clean off all the water, or do you just sit there and drip dry, or what happens?
So there's 2 rules of thought. Okay. One is what you're talking about. Now you can get a fancy schmancy bidet, which is not the one that I put in my favorite things because you can go very, very high. The sky is the limit when it comes to bidets. I'm not even kidding. So you can actually get one with an air blower, right? That blows air on your butt and dries it. Okay. I do not have one of those. I wipe. What I do though, this is what I do. Totally TMI. So I clean. Okay. And then you kind of shake a little bit, and then I just take one thing of toilet paper and I just kind of wipe off the excess water. But that is significantly less toilet paper use than anything else. I am talking about what might be a 5 wiper, let's say, is God. A 1, right? Okay. So we're talking about and not even a lot of toilet paper, right? I would say if there was mud on your hand, you would be you'd want a lot of toilet paper. But when there's not, you don't need as much. So again, I'm telling you, life changing. Now, some people just shake. It's bidet. Yes, Mom. Apparently it's no. Kim had questions.
Hey, questions came in. This is when.
Yeah, exactly.
What can I do?
I am a single wiper, clean and then wipe. It's like drying your hands. It's like washing your hands. Literally like washing your hands. So just think of it that way. But your butt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
That's okay.
Question answered. Asked and answered.
Exactly. But yeah, again, if you want to see the bidet and other things that are part of my favorite things that I'm adding to, just go to the link tree. It's in the show notes in the about section. I said bidet, sir. Yeah, I love my whole community on this show. This is too funny. But yeah, go check it out, buy the stuff and get some interesting gifts because it's eclectic. I'm telling you. There's another thing I want to put on there, which is something called Skylight. And that's really I'll put it up today. And that's really great if you have family members that you don't get to see all the time. It's a great, I gave it to my parents, and it's really a cool kind of frame for pictures and things that you don't see all of the time. Okay. So, all right, we got all that business out of the way, talking about number ones and number twos. Before we get to some headlines, though, I did want to talk about Giving Tuesday since we're talking about giving things. You really have to do your due diligence. Okay. Charity Navigator is one of those organizations that kind of goes through the charities, and it will tell you all sorts of things about nonprofits and charities. And they have some advice if you are planning to donate, especially today, which is Giving Tuesday. So the first piece of advice, make a list of things that you care about, like literally write it down on a piece of paper. Do you care about, let's say reproductive freedom? Do you care about maybe helping solve a chronic illness? Those sorts of things. Because when you put down the things that you care about, then all of a sudden you get an idea of what to donate to. Mm-hmm. Some people, they default to the big charities, which is fine if you want to. But if you really care about something, like, for instance, for me, I want to donate to the Crohn's organization that can work on, hopefully someday a cure for Crohn's and colitis and things like that, because obviously my family is directly impacted by something like that. So those are the things that they advise you to start with. Then you have to use your household budget to decide how much to give. So I donate every month to my brother's nonprofit that he works for, Child Help. I just set it up $25 a month, and that's what I donate every month to his organization. And by the end of the year, I've made a significant donation to his nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Some people can only do a one-time payment, and that's fine as well, but you don't want it to break you, because then maybe you'll end up needing charity, right? And so just make sure that you can afford it. Another idea that they say is you don't have to just donate to one. Small donations, $5 to a bunch of different organizations can, really make a difference. And then finally, of course, you have to be aware of charity scammers. So according to the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, natural disasters, for instance, we always hear about fraudsters as well. And then, of course, days like today, where a lot of scammers know people are going to be researching charities, they'll make their websites look extremely close. Right. So it could be almost the same name, but it's not the same name. So make sure that you, Google, go directly to the website. Don't necessarily click a link that's emailed to you. Actually go and see if that is the real organization. It is not hard in 2023 to make a website that looks extremely like the website that you want to go to. And so, yeah, you just have to be careful about that. And then since we're speaking of scams, and it's the season of giving and taking for some people, state officials are warning you to look out for the charity fraud and scams. And then Rob Bonta, our attorney general, was out yesterday in Los Angeles talking about and highlighting an organization or a story from a woman who went out and got $46,000 stolen from her bank account. It's called a SIM swap, okay? Now, basically what happens is thieves contact your cell phone company, and they figure out that they convince the cell phone company that they're you. They get a SIM card mailed to them, and then the minute that they get in, you're locked out of your account, right? Because it's like when you buy a new phone, right? Your other phone is no longer working. That one's working. So, of course, who did the woman call? This woman's name is Amanda Moon, and she was absolutely devastated when she called her bank account, and it was drained of $46,000. So what she did was she called, and let me get the video up. She called ABC7's Michael Finney, who we absolutely love, friend of the show. And this is what happened. Now, again, I'm kind of surprised by the ending of this, but of course, happy for her as well. Here we go.
Draining your bank account.
Be helpful.
Amanda Moon has gone through a lot.
I had to stop working. I wasn't able to take care of my kids. It was kind of like I was mentally like it was very distressing.
And very understandable. Amanda's bank account was raided and over $46,000 stolen. Amanda says the thieves managed to get her mobile phone service switched over to them.
So I was a victim of SIM swapping, and somebody had hacked my bank accounts and stole money, and the banks were refusing to return the funds to me.
Amanda contacted her bank, Chase. She also contacted the bank where her money was wired, Wells Fargo, and her mobile phone provider, Comcast Xfinity.
I also contacted like the BBB, the CFPB. And so the companies were reaching out to me. So I was speaking with them. They denied all my requests.
She just kept going, had an attorney friend send a letter.
So a coworker had recommended that I reach out to you, and I had known about you, and I felt like maybe you could help me with my situation.
Amanda did not give up.
So I don't know. I think it was like a cumulative thing, or I don't know what made Chase change their minds. They ended up giving the money back.
All of it.
All of it.
That's crazy.
All $46,000. We asked Chase for a comment. We refunded our customer in full after reviewing her case. If you suspect any fraudulent activity, call the number on the back of your card to report it.
To report it to your bank, he says. Okay, so if you want to avoid this, there are things you can do. One is set up your two-factor authentication, but that doesn't protect you 100%. You also need to realize when it's happening, right? So if you start being unable to access some of your accounts, that is the first warning sign. Also, you can't make calls. You can't send texts. You've noticed activity elsewhere. So maybe you're getting alerts or something, maybe to your desktop that you're doing something. That is a clue. If your login credentials no longer work for accounts like your bank or your credit card, scammers have probably changed the passwords. If you're checking your online credit card statement, you notice several transactions you don't remember making. That means you could be a victim of the SIM swap. So here are ways where you can protect yourself. Watch out for online behavior, those phishing scams, especially right now. Don't click links. I never click links. I get so many ads and stuff to my phone as text messages, and it's really inviting. And I go, no, I'm not clicking that. Don't click it in your emails. Don't click it on your phone. Have a strong password and make sure that it's hidden. PIN codes. If your phone carrier allows you to set a separate passcode or PIN for your communications, do it. Don't build your security and identity authentication around your phone number. And then, of course, make sure that you have the alerts set up for your bank in case somebody's wanting to change your password, that you can get some sort of heads up that that's happening. But yeah, it's really kind of scary what you can do. When I first heard SIM swap, I'm like, are they literally physically stealing the SIM from your phone? But no. They're actually being sent it by your cell phone company.
I wonder, how do you get targeted for that?
Oh, I think it's just, they probably just go and see if they can get anybody. I mean, I would just say maybe they get your number from somewhere. Maybe you left a piece of mail. That's a great question. It's like, why did you target me? It doesn't look like Amanda Moon knows the thieves, but if you put a lot of information on your social media, right? Like those sorts of things, all those quizzes and things like that. I mean, those are all places in which people can get personal information. So if somebody asks, what's your mother's maiden name, right? Or what's the name of your dog? All those sorts of these scammers have nothing to do but time, because once they hit one, it's payday, baby, so that's hard. But the other thing that's not a scam that I want to talk about before we go to the headlines is this name drop feature on the new iPhone update. Have you heard about this, Kim?
No.
Okay, so name drop basically is where you can share your contact information phone to phone. Okay, so you've seen the ads, right, where people can touch their phones together and they could send text messages and things like that,
like an airdrop thing,
kind of like an airdrop thing. And that's a great description of it, because that's kind of what it is. So basically, when your Apple device and someone else's come very close together, you'll see a pop-up message asking if you want to save the other person's contact information or share a photo. It's very similar to AirDrop. AirDrop works with Apple devices that are within 30 feet or so. You have to be on Wi-Fi, Bluetooth turned on. Apple says name drop only works if your Apple device is with a few centimeters of another one. Each of the devices needs to be unlocked for name drop to work, and you have to pick which pieces of contact information you want to share. Well, apparently people were really freaked out because when they went into their settings, and you find it by going to your settings, general, and then you go to AirDrop, and when you click AirDrop, you'll see the name drop automatically turned on. And so people are freaking out like, oh my God, have I been sharing all of my contact information with a bunch of strangers? Even police departments have put out warnings on Facebook about it. But you could turn it off on your own. It's an opt-out, which is kind of annoying. But this isn't a big thing because of the fact that you have to approve it. Now, could you butt approve something? Perhaps. But I don't think that that's necessarily happening. My husband, when I asked him last night, I'm like, have you heard of this name drop? And he's like, yeah, it happens to me all the time. And I said, what? It's never happened to me. I turned it off, but it never happened to me before I turned it off. And he says, yes, because my personal phone is always next to my work phone. And so it's constantly trying to do it that way. And Kim, you're absolutely right. You won't see it unless you've updated to the latest operating system. So if you haven't done that, I wouldn't worry about it, but you should update your phone eventually because of all the security features. But yeah, if you start seeing this on Facebook and people being like, oh my God, be afraid, it's nothing to be afraid of because one, you can opt out of it, and two, you have to approve it. And they're real, Washington Post put it really succinctly. They basically said, you and I live in a real world where we cannot be on guard for every threat. Don't worry about name drop, but worry about wasting your time on risks that don't matter. Be aware of where you share your personal information. Be aware of phishing scams, things you click on, things like that. Name drop, just turn it off. It's really not that difficult. Okay, let's do some headlines. And then when we come back, I want to talk about Jimmy Kimmel. I know I saw it I saw it this morning, and then somebody mentioned it in the comments before the show. Marjorie Taylor Greene has a new book out. And can you imagine the fact that she wanted to go on Jimmy Kimmel's show to promote her stupid-ass book? Yeah, no. We'll hear Jimmy rail on her a little bit. And then George Santos, the congressional LARPer. It's insane what he's still going to be allowed to do, even if he is expelled from Congress. All right, but before we get to Kim's news, please, you guys, click the thumbs up button, show your support for the show. The super chat is also live. And here's some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Good morning, everyone. The director of the CIA is reportedly meeting with his Israeli and Egyptian counterparts to discuss a further extension of the truce between Israel and Hamas. Yesterday, the temporary pause in fighting was extended an additional 2 days. As part of this deal, Hamas has so far released 69 hostages. Israel has freed 150 Palestinian detainees, most of them women and minors from Israeli jails. A tribute service is being held right now for former First Lady Rosalind Carter in Georgia. Former President Jimmy Carter, President Biden, and First Lady Jill Biden are all set to attend it. Carter's attendance comes despite him being in hospice care. I just want to show you this picture. It was what it looks like there today.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was, it was interesting that Trump and Melania, of course, showed up to it. I didn't know if he was going to, so that was interesting.
What's interesting is I was reading that Trump just criticized Carter yesterday.
Oh no, did he? I didn't
blasted
know that.
him.
What did he say?
Yeah, some,
He's
Trumpism.
a loser, probably.
Yeah,
stupid.
some, whatever.
Wow. Okay.
And so there they are. And then the article showed a picture of Melania saying, how interesting it was that she showed up when her husband had blasted Carter the day before.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
No class.
And there they are. And, then Barack Obama has to stand right next to these people. God.
Oh, I don't know if I would have the ability to do something, but you're on the national, international stage, and as Michelle says, we're supposed to go high. But whatever.
Where's the Bushes?
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting that
The picture said this was from Rosalind Carter's service, so
yeah.
I would have thought that they would have been there, but okay.
I will Google as you're looking. Did they?
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on and talk about uh, consumers' confidence. It's bouncing back after 3 straight months of decline. The conference's board consumer confidence index rose 3 points in November. The board's chief economist noted improved confidence about future business conditions, job availability, and incomes. So we're all concerned about the economy, yet confidence is on the rise. So there you go. This has just been going on way too long, but there is a Russian court today extending the pretrial detention of an American journalist accused of spying. Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was arrested on espionage charges in March. Russian news agencies report a court in Moscow added 2 months now to his pretrial detention period, extending it through January 30th. He remains in a Russian jail. Newly released court documents in a federal lawsuit against Meta show that the company had some pretty strange dealings, refusing to shut down most social media accounts of children under the age of 13. They're not supposed to have accounts under the age of 13.
No,
they
they're not.
also revealed that Meta collected the kids' personal information without their parents' consent. Attorneys general from 33 states accusing Meta of receiving more than 1 million reports of under 13 users on Instagram.
It's scary, and we'll talk about this later in the show. It's scary what's happening. I'm hoping that all of this attention actually leads to changes, because again, there was a world without social media. It's not as if we need it to stay the same way it always has been. And when we're talking about teenagers, my daughter, as happens oftentimes with teenagers, they lose their phones, they gain their phones. Every single time I take my daughter's phone away from her for any period of time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say an hour, totally different kid. Totally different kid.
Really?
I mean, totally. And it's not just social media. It's just not being on the phone all of the time and just putting it to the other side, not getting text messages, not getting any sort of alerts. It is a totally different kid. And so, yeah, she's in that period right now, no phone. So, yeah.
What'd she do? What'd she do this time?
Let's just say finals are coming up and we need to focus. So,
Okay, that
you know
makes
what
sense.
I mean? It's crunch time before the finals that are coming up in about 3 weeks.
I love that. I love it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay. Maybe I should do that. See, this is why I get my ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I think your kid and my kid, 2 totally different kids. So my kid, your kid doesn't have social media, right?
She has Snap.
Oh, see, my kid doesn't have Snap. So yeah, but I took it all away. I'm like, no. She can message her friends. That's about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're time management we're working on.
Former President Trump.
I love your pictures.
There is. His attempt to subpoena information about the 2021 U.S. Capitol riot is being rejected by a federal judge. Rejected.
You're fired.
Stamp. Reject. Trump's attorneys claim the motion to subpoena records from the House Select Committee was due to materials being withheld related to this investigation, but the judge, Tanya Chutkan, ruled Trump didn't sufficiently justify his request, calling it a fishing expedition.
Ah, yes, indeed. I'm loving it.
Did you know that Amazon delivers more packages to homes in the United States than both UPS and FedEx? Amazon surpassed UPS in parcel volume in 2022 and FedEx in 2020. Internal forecasts show Amazon is expecting to make some 5.9 billion deliveries by the end of 2023. That is a lot of packages.
Yeah, but also doesn't Amazon use USPS, like our US Postal Service, for a lot of them? So it's kind of unfair because USPS or UPS and FedEx obviously have their own drivers. Amazon does both. They have their Amazon drivers, and I think they also use the US Postal Service. So a little bit skewed. Also, they have the same day. KTVU, I think it was yesterday, was broadcasting from inside one of the same day fulfillment centers in Oakland. That place was hopping. It was loud. I can't imagine working in an environment that was so loud.
I'm trying to order anything I need this year early and not do mess everybody up at the end and have them double time step it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to like what I like to do because I see my brother in Arizona and my sister-in-law in Arizona. I try to I don't know if it's a good thing. So Amazon will gift wrap a lot of the things for you when you send it, which is what I try to do, and you have to pay for it. But I hate, like, my mom will do this. She'll send all of the Christmas gifts to my sister-in-law's house in Arizona, my brother's house, and then they have to wrap them over there. And that's a pain in the ass. Like, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just going to do that sort of thing. But now, I mean, it's so hard with besides Dylan, who's 12, so pretty much almost a teenager. I mean, nowadays, like, what do you get these kids? Although, if I could show you the laundry list that is my daughter's Christmas list, it's hilarious. She has emojis. She has like, this means that type of, like, she breaks it down. So my son was pretty reasonable. My daughter's is like,
I can't afford anything on Julia's list. I can't.
I mean,
she wants a nicer oboe than she has. She wants a flute with open holes, an intermediate flute instead of a beginner flute.
Oh, okay. So she wants an upgrade of everything.
She wants a piccolo. What?
I love the fact that it's all musical instruments, though.
Well, there's one thing on there.
What?
I've really been dragging my heels because
What?
I just don't like them. She wants a pair of Birkenstocks.
Get her the Birkenstocks, the best sandals ever. I lived in Birkenstocks in my teens and 20s. I would still have a pair of Birkenstocks if they weren't so friggin' expensive. Oh, they're so comfortable, Kim. And they're in right now. Although I don't understand the trend of wearing sandals with socks, because apparently if you wear no socks with sandals, you're totally uncool. In my day, you were just the worst.
That was the dorkiest move you could make. Yeah.
The only way it was allowed is like you were camping and you had thick socks on and you just want to throw your sandals on real quick. That was the only way that could be justified. But now it's like, oh my God, you have to wear socks with sandals. I just don't.
And Crocs too. You have to wear socks with your Crocs.
Yeah. I love my Birkenstocks, and honestly, I would buy another pair today.
Really?
Maybe I'll buy. I owe my husband a pair of Birkenstocks.
They look like Jesus shoes. I think they're so ugly.
So comfortable. I don't think that they're ugly at all. I love them. Love them. Love them.
Aretha.
Ah.
Lastly, the estate of Aretha Franklin has been settled by an Oakland County probate judge in Michigan. The legendary singer died in 2018 without a formal written will. That set off a legal battle between 3 of her 4 sons.
Oh, wow.
So awful when this happens.
Yeah.
A handwritten document from 2014 found in a notebook was ruled as legally binding. The judge says the 3 of the late singer's sons will each get one of Franklin's homes. The rest of her belongings will be divided between her family. Franklin's oldest son, Clarence, lives under a guardianship, and her 3 other sons will also have to provide support for their brother.
Wow. Yeah, so, it's always,
and that seems totally fair, right?
I mean, it seems fair to me, but it's always difficult, when family has to do stuff like that. I mean, if there's any gift you should give your relatives before you die, is make sure everything is just set in stone, because leaving it up to kids or family members, who knows if they get along, and it's just difficult.
Yeah. The best thing you could do, write that will out and have it all.
Exactly.
Well, we had a family member who the will was written on the back of an envelope at a hospital.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
come on, and
then is that even legally binding?
Well, her accountant and lawyer were right there.
Oh,
and
okay.
Interestingly, they were also listed in the number of people who got things.
Oh, interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Total scammers. I mean, it's crazy what happens when people die or when people are on their deathbed and they, people swoop in trying to get something for nothing.
It sucks. But again, just be as detailed as possible, especially if you own properties and things like that. It could get so complicated.
Yeah. This report is sponsored by you.
We
are crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you. Please find us at theNikkiMedoroShow.com, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. There we are.
There it is.
Patreon, PayPal links all there for the taking. at theNikkiMedoroShow.com. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, so let's get into what the funniest story I think that I was reading yesterday, which of course was this is the first sentence of the article. Looks like people couldn't care less about Marjorie Taylor Greene's self-titled autobiography, which has received a slew of negative reviews following its recent release. It's titled MTG, which of course is what most people call her. So I won't fault her for the title, but apparently
it should be titled My Ugly Nasty Soul.
It should be toilet paper, Charmin. That's what it should be. MTG has earned
bidet fodder.
There you go. 1.8 out of 5 stars. Many online critics are poking fun at the memoir's title, calling it straight up garbage. One person says, I saw my neighbor throwing this book into the trash, and I asked him if I could read it first. Boy, what a boring mistake. This book is far from reality and full of imaginations. Don't waste your time. And then, of course, the one and only Jimmy Kimmel had to get in, piling on MTG in the book by disclosing the fact that apparently she wanted to go on his show to promote the book. So here's a bit of Jimmy Kimmel last night.
I got a special Thanksgiving message from, I don't know if you saw this, from of all people, Marjorie Taylor Greene. The other night, I mentioned that Marge is taking a break from burning books to write one. And I guess she's a viewer because she reached out on Twitter. She wrote, hey, Jimmy Kimmel, since most of your show content is your nonstop lies about me, why don't you have me on your show? I'll bring you a copy of my book and we can chat about what needs to happen to save America. I guess I'm a Hollywood libtard that's part of the celebrity pedophile Satan club until she has a book to promote.
Exactly.
Then I'd love to swing by. This woman, I want to remind you something. This woman called the police on me for a joke, and now she wants to be a guest on the show. Well, I have to admit, part of me wants to invite her here so I can let her wait for an hour down in the green room doing power squats and then bump her. But even just to screw with Matt Damon, it would be fun, but I also don't want rabies. So her book, by the way, I was interested in how her book was selling. So I looked on Amazon, and this is real. It's ranked number 9,846. It's ranked number 65 in the women's biography category, which puts it 50 places behind a book written by Kanye's ex-girlfriend, 51 places behind Michelle Obama's book from 2018, 54 places behind Michelle Obama's other book, and 60 places behind Paris Hilton's Paris the Memoir. Marjorie Taylor Greene's book is such a bomb, I might have to report it to the Capitol Police.
That's so funny. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was really thinking it was going to be some sort of page turner, but shut the hell up, Marjorie. Like, who the hell wants to listen to or read your nonsense book? It's just full of conspiracies, lies, and I don't know, spreading Trumpism all over the place. People are done with that. I just don't understand why she thought it was going to do well. But yeah, it's not doing well, which I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy to see. That would be so funny. Square says an audiobook, maybe pictures. If Marjorie Taylor Greene read her autobiography out loud, would that make it more interesting? No, I still wouldn't give her any dollars. I wouldn't support her at all.
Did she write it, or did she have someone else write it? And could she even pronounce all the words in her book?
Exactly. I have no idea. I mean, remember, she doesn't even know, who's within the Department of Homeland Security. The woman's a moron. Mm-hmm. She spreads conspiracies. Blue Spark's like, I plan on reading it as soon as I finish George Santos. I'm assuming George Santos has a book. Blue Spark, I didn't even know that. But speaking of the man, George Santos may be expelled from Congress this week.
Sayonara, George.
Exactly. But even if it happens, did you know, even if he's expelled for being a lying liar, he still gets to enjoy all the perks afforded to former lawmakers.
No
That
way.
includes access to the House floor, a lawmakers only gym, and dining facilities. Apparently, the rules state that former members can do all of these things. And I love this one quote. In other words, George Santos may be able to keep LARPing, live action role playing, as a member of Congress, even if he's expelled. I just, any former lawmaker can walk onto the House floor unless they're a lobbyist or a foreign agent, have direct personal or financial interest in a bill being considered, or have been convicted of a crime in relation to that individual's election to or service to the House. I kind of feel like that would disqualify Santos because he's a liar and he ran on that.
I think he'll probably be convicted, so it's a
Yeah.
matter of time until his access is stripped.
Exactly. He's set to go on trial next September for those charges, but that's a long time between now and then, right? So between now and then, this asshat can continue to go to the House floor. He can use the gym. He can use the dining facilities. He can, let's see, lawmakers can buy their desks for $1,000, their chair for $500. They could do all of that. And if you're George Santos, you can maybe sell it, right? I mean, he's a grifter. The OnlyFans and the Botox and the trips
my
and the bills he
God.
paid. The guy is just too freaking much. I just don't even know how you could. He has been so humiliated on the national stage. The audacity of if he still walks into Congress after being expelled, but I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. I would not put it past him for him to walk in there. And unless he's publicly shamed by other members and just doesn't want to deal with it, we could still see him on the House floor, which is it's just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, enough with MTG and George Santos. Let's talk about somebody else that's a public figure, but in a different way. That's Linda Evangelista. She's 58 years old. She's 58 years old. There is I think on Apple TV it's called like Supermodel. And they talk about like Cindy Crawford, Linda Evangelista, a bunch of other women that were, are supermodels of our day. Now, I don't follow closely these people, but apparently, I didn't know about this. She had a procedure back in 2016. It's called cool sculpting. I actually worked with a woman that did an endorsement deal with cool sculpting. Nothing bad happened to her, but apparently the procedure went really, really bad. It left her, according to Linda Evangelista, brutally disfigured. So what happens is, now what cool sculpting is they take a piece of fat, okay, and they put it, I guess, like between two plates that kind of freezes the fat tissue. And what's supposed to happen is the fat kind of gets dissolved and keeps dissolving, and you kind of, those trouble spots that you just are tired of looking at, it takes care of that. That's the ultimate goal. Well, there's a small percentage of people that it can go terribly wrong. I forget what it's called. There's an acronym. I think it's called PCH or something. And what happens is it increases the fat cells in that area in which you.
Oh no.
And not only does it increase the fat, it hardens it.
Ew.
So it's not as if, let's just say you're hugging somebody and you have a little love handle or something and kind of squishes in. No, it's a protrusion. It's a hard protrusion. And so she has all of these. There's under her armpits, on her side, all those places that you just wanted to get rid of now have become not only permanent, but hard. And so Linda Evangelista it's called PAH, paradoxical adipose hyperplasia. Okay, that's what it is. And she's suing because she says I was not made aware of it, although apparently, according to cool sculpting, it's in kind of the fine print or whatever. But she's not going to be silent about it anymore. She says PAH has not only destroyed my livelihood, it sent me into a cycle of deep depression, profound sadness, and the lowest depths of self-loathing. In the process, I've become a recluse. But with this lawsuit, I'm moving forward to rid myself of my shame. I'm going public with my story. I'm so tired of living this way. And I would like to walk out of the door with my head held high, despite not looking like myself any longer. Now, the woman is still beautiful. I will say that. Here is a picture of her back in the day, though. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect, Kim. Thank you. So that's obviously her in her supermodel days. And the one on the right is now. I think she wanted to do stuff around her neck. That's why she always wears things around her neck, because I think she has some of that underneath there. It's very sad, but the part that makes me so sad was she says she's not interested in dating. I don't want to sleep with anybody anymore, she said. Would you be able, And I don't know if anybody in my comments, and I'm not trying to like put people on blast or share something that you don't want to, but if you had, and I'm going to use her word, she says that she's disfigured, right? What would it take for you to want to be with another person? Could you ever get through it? Now Calvin's asking a good question. Can't surgery help? Apparently liposuction does not work. Like you could suck it out, but then it comes back. And that's what happened with her. Like she had to have liposuction. She tried liposuction and it still came back and it's still hard. And so it's really sad that someone who's made her living on being so beautiful is basically accepting a life in which she doesn't want to love anybody anymore.
Well, I did read that she said she doesn't want to sleep with anyone because she doesn't want to hear them breathing next to her.
I didn't know that. I thought it would just had to do with the fact that she doesn't want to sleep with anybody because she's brutally disfigured.
Maybe the real reason is because she's not comfortable with how she looks. But from what I was reading, she said, you know,
I don't want to hear somebody's
I don't want to hear someone breathing. Like, I don't want to have to, you know, have anyone around me. I'm comfortable being by myself in my own ways. And I do think you can get to that point where you...
But at 58 years old seems really young to not to share a bed or any intimacy with another person, right? Doesn't it seem a bit young?
I mean, I don't know. I
don't think that, I mean, I know we've talked about the fact, like, and you were cracking me up, like, would you ever get married again? And you're like, no, I'm done.
Well, my mom didn't.
Right. So.
And so, I mean, that doesn't mean anybody else, you know, shouldn't or can't or won't. But she said, you know, I got to the point where I really value my independence.
Yeah.
Where I like not having to answer to anyone. Where I, you know, and back then I think marriage was different, right? I mean, you had to clear everything with I mean, I don't know, just be more, you know, less independent than she has found herself. And so for her, I don't think she would ever get married again because she doesn't want to give that up.
Yeah. And I guess I understand that as well. But at the same time, it does seem like a really, and maybe I shouldn't say that because I've never gone through it, just kind of a lonely experience. Although I do hear, you know, and read anecdotal stories about people saying, I'm free to do whatever I want.
That's right.
OCB is like, you could sleep in separate rooms. Very, very true.
Well, and I think you develop a rich life, you know, where you have a lot of friends and family surrounding you or hobbies or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so it becomes not so lonely when you find outlets and ways to be around people.
Yeah.
Like here in the chat, you know, we're all hanging out together. Here's an outlet right here.
Yeah,
where you're
true.
not alone, where you're with people, where you're talking with people, where it's a social interaction. There are ways around it, I think. You're not just sitting home lonely. You know, you are experiencing life.
Vicky writes in, I can't believe she opted for that cool sculpting thing. You'd be surprised, you know, some people don't want to be necessarily cut open, and this is a new type of procedure. Heather said, I had a Groupon for one of the cool sculpting visits like 10 years ago. It didn't do anything. Interesting. I've never had plastic surgery. I mean, technically, I wouldn't even call it plastic surgery. I mean, I had this thing on my forehead removed, which just ended up becoming worse. And I'm just accepting it as part of my life. But yeah, it's the strive for perfection, right? The strive to maintain the beauty as you look at these pictures, the beauty on the left, when you look like the person on the right. Would you ever want to experience what it's like to be a supermodel or a model or love for your beauty if you knew that in the second part of your life, it would be all taken away from you? Right? I feel like that would be just
I
torture,
think so. I mean, everybody gets older. We don't stay looking like we do at our best, at our peak forever.
No.
Right? I mean, at some point things start sliding down, and that's fine because that's life.
Exactly.
And so we accept this as part of life. We're not going to stay, you know, at our hottest, most beautiful moment forever. That beauty fades for everyone.
Vilma says it's always best to open your life up, share it with somebody else. Maybe although it's not the best situation, even non-sexual, there's a lot of value in friendships.
Right.
Heather says my boyfriend is 7 years and I live separately. Probably has a lot to do with the success of our relationship. That's interesting. That is an interesting point, though. Like when you don't live with the person, you have that time of separation so you can keep up in Heather's case, the romance, or even, a friendship. Like we just, you could travel together, you could do things together, but you don't necessarily need to share your bed. Where was it? Lori cracked me up. Nah, I get a good vibrator. Satisfaction and no talking. After got over heartbreak when I was single the last time, love being only accountable to me.
Right.
Go, Lori. Hands down. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a cuddler. I'll be honest. I don't want to, I don't know if I'd necessarily get married again. I can't imagine never having anybody like if I was 58 years old. Now, if I was like 70, you know what I mean? I ain't getting married again. I'm not having anyone else in my bed. But depending on how old I was, right, to never love like that again, I don't know. I don't know. Flo says, I thought Ms. Evangelista's decision may be in part because she may have difficult loving herself. I hope this isn't the case. And in spite of this terrible botched surgery, she'll date again. Yeah, I hope so too. I just, I felt for her. I really, when I felt like that, or when I read that, I was like, oh, that has to be so hard. Not only to say to yourself, but to do an interview and say it out loud. Heather goes on to say, we have our own space, have the things the way we want, still stay over at each other's places frequently, but sometimes a night apart is a nice reset button. Would you ever consider having your own bedroom, Kim? Like, even though you were still married?
Interesting. You should talk about this.
Oh,
because
interesting. Okay.
I've been telling David I need my own room.
Really? Why?
Because, first of all, I go to bed later than him usually.
Okay.
Sometimes. And also, so if I'm up a little bit later, I get chilly. It's chilly at night. Right. And then when I hop into bed, my immediate go-to is to grab onto him and suck out his warmth.
Heck yeah.
And that wakes him up, and then he can't get back to sleep. He's a delicate sleeper. And I'm a fall asleep, sleep anywhere kind of person, no problem.
Right.
And then, apparently I snore.
Get the hell out then.
He says he can't sleep without my snoring. He doesn't want to have separate bedrooms. He's like, it doesn't matter. I want to be with you, and I can't sleep without your night sounds.
Sweet your husband is.
But meanwhile, he refuses to give me his warmth. So
you go in for the cuddle and you get the foot, the elbow, like you're like, get away from me, you're too cold.
Yeah, there's usually hold on, I have to.
I think she has to sneeze or cough or something. Bless you, my friend. Bless you. I'll sleep on the couch because my husband snores sometimes. If I just can't stop hearing him snore, I will definitely move to the other room. To actually get a separate bedroom, I don't think I ever would be able to do that. I've said this to my husband before, especially if he falls asleep on the couch. I did not get married to not be able to sleep with my partner. I can't live like that. I need someone. I need cuddles, damn it. I'm a cuddler. Absolutely.
I had to mute because he came in here yelling about how it's just more than a snore. So my apologies. There was all kinds of hollering in here.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't really want my separate bed. I mean, that's
no, it's a, no. But you know what I would want if I could get a big enough house, my own room with all my crap. Right? Like a place where, for instance, I could do this show instead of doing it in like a shared area.
Right.
If I was an artist.
A she shed, as it were.
Yes. I could do that, but I would not want to sleep. Because then also, I mean, sometimes lovey-dovey time is spontaneous, right? If you're always in your other room at night, then you got to schedule it. And I'm not
sure. It takes away some of the chances.
Exactly. But I'm telling you, snoring, I could get that. Yeah.
And you know what I wanted to tell you is I keep getting these Groupon messages.
Okay.
For something called, I mean, it's for other things too. It's like a whole list of stuff, right?
Right.
But the top one is for something called cavitation. Have you heard of this?
No, cavitation. Okay.
Okay. It's some type of
Cavitation.
thing.
It's a process whereby pressure variations. No, this is not. This is just the definition of cavitation.
It's supposed to be fat
what is it?
reduction and skin
Do you know what it
tightening,
is?
where
Is it a pump?
apparently.
So basically, well, the definition is a process where pressure variations in a liquid can, in a short period of time, cause countless small cavities to form and then implode. I have no idea.
Right. They basically melt the fat.
I can't hear you, Kim. Did I mute you? Hold on. I think I muted you. Are you there?
Okay, am I there?
Okay, now you're there. Sorry, I wasn't hearing you.
I think what it is they heat up your fat and try to melt it.
Oh. So do fat cavitation devices work? It can potentially provide a temporary reduction in the visibility of cellulite. However, once energy and heat and temporary inflammation dissipate from the treated area, you're back to square one. Well, how long does that take?
I don't know.
9-in-1 fat burner lipocavitation machine. Fat reduction. You know what? I ain't messing with it.
It seems really unpleasant. I wouldn't mess with it either. I don't care how fat or skinny or bumpy you are. I don't know.
Although I will say this, if it keeps me warm, and I'm a very cold, like if you could make a cavitation blanket where I could snuggle with it all night, and then in the morning I wake up and whoo, I'm nice and smooth just for the day, I'd do it every night.
Here's what it says on WebMD, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it says ultrasonic or ultrasound cavitation is the use of ultrasound technology to break down fat cells below the skin. The procedure involves applying pressure on fat cells through ultrasonic vibrations. The pressure is high enough to make the fat cells break down into a liquid form. The body can then get rid of it as waste through your urine. Through your bidet. The broken down fat cells go from the body to the liver where they're excreted as waste. This method treatment is used along with other weight loss programs to help with getting rid of excessive fat, a preferred method to other invasive procedures of eliminating body fat.
And what's the name of the product that you keep getting Groupons for?
It's cavitation.
That's it.
This
it's
procedure.
Just called cavitation?
Yeah, whatever salon.
It's a procedure that you go into, because I'm looking online and there's actual machines you can buy at home.
No, this is like a salon. But the whole process to me sounds like iffy and weird.
To me. It sounds scammy.
Like, stop sending me cavitation.
That's interesting.
I'm almost ready to unsubscribe because I keep getting it and I'm annoyed.
Yeah. I don't know. Hold on. Heather says, so you can piss gravy? Not sure if awesome or terrifying. Exactly. Because this is great that you bring it up. So is Linda Evangelista not like a lesson for all of us? Like, just leave yourself alone. Like Kathleen says, leave my fat alone. At some point, and again, I understand. Like, I was just with my friend and she was talking about, I need to get more Botox. And I'm not knocking it. I've never done Botox. I understand the desire. Okay. I understand, God, if I could just get rid of this little piece right here, I'd be so happy. But I feel like that little piece leads to another little piece and another little piece. And then all of a sudden you're having all these procedures. Something goes wrong. And then there's that come to Jesus moment where you're like, I should have just accepted what I looked like.
Well, you start looking like aging. Frankenstein, and you look in the mirror, and somehow, because it's done piece by piece, you think you look normal, and everyone else is like, "What the hell's going on with her face?"
You look like Dolly Parton at 77 in a freaking cowgirl's uniform.
She looks really good.
She did look really, really good. I mean,
however, she did wear nylons, and that
and that whole entire outfit was like, it wasn't. Yeah, there was a lot of holding you in. I think.
Listen, I'm not saying that Dolly Parton doesn't have a great figure. That's not what I'm saying. But everybody needs a little help here and there.
Exactly. I love Chris. Chris writes, I can understand separate sleeping rooms for snoring. Some people get real bothered by snoring. Me, I could sleep through someone snoring like a chainsaw.
Yeah,
I
me
wish.
Too.
I'm like your husband, Kim. I can't not. I can hear everything. People are like, how do you hear if you have earplugs in? And sometimes it's funny, like I can hear if I need to fill the fish tank up with water and it's gurgling loudly, that's like all the way on the other side of the house from my bed. But then like if James says something to me, I'm like, what? I can't hear you. So it's a really weird type of thing. And it matters how deeply I'm sleeping, but I am the lightest sleeper. That's why I sleep with my eye mask. That's why I sleep with earplugs. Do not bother me. But yeah, if James's CPAP isn't working, or if he's snoring, I can't. And I'll eventually get so frustrated that I'll go to the couch. Most of the time though, he's really considerate and he's like, you know what, I'm getting up, I'm going to the couch myself. But yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Oh yeah, remember that? Blue Spark, talking to Heather. That made me think of the potato chips that just went right through you. The idea creep people out. Was it Oleo? Was that what remember?
Yes.
Remember Oleo? I think that's what it was called. Margarine. Or it was like an additive in chips or whatever.
Was it Olean? Olean.
Is that what it was called? It's Oleo, or maybe Olean was the product name. It's an old brand of margarine, apparently. But let me look up Olean. But yeah, it would give people it'd make everything way too loose. That's all I'm saying. It was like a lot of oil. Margarine. Don't eat margarine, by the way. Margarine is terrible for you. Just eat butter. Just eat butter. It's
Olestra.
Olestra. That's what it was. Thank you.
A fat substitute adding no calories to products. It's been used in the preparation of otherwise high-fat foods, thereby lowering or eliminating their fat content. But remember that it had, when they had it on one of those like Olean, and they have to give you the, what happens to you, may cause explosive diarrhea.
Joanne put it better. The product gave me stomach cramps, and we know what stomach cramps means. Yeah. Heather,
Olestra, also known. Live the shoot. Olestra is also known by its brand named Olean.
Olean. Yeah. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, yeah. That is, do they still, I don't know if they still make products with it, because I feel like people kept getting too lubed of a shoot, if they, as they say. So I don't know if they, hold on, let me look it up. Olestra.
It was a massive pain in the gastrointestinal area, to be precise. It became notorious for its warning of, quote, abdominal cramping and loose stools. But a new study has found that Olestra might actually be good for you. It could help rid your body of a dangerous toxin.
Yeah, because you could be pooping your pants all
That's
day long.
exactly right.
The toxin is the Olestra. As of 2023, according to Wikipedia, no products are sold in the United States using Olestra. So people are tired of pooping their pants. And they're like, talk about not trusting a fart, right? It's just like, don't do it.
I mean, you want to lose weight or eat stuff without having the fat content, but have it taste okay. But at what cost? Where you walk through life and you're constantly crapping on yourself? No.
You would be like clenching the whole time, like, no. I love our conversations. I don't know how we continue to devolve into bathroom talk, but It is just a joy of mine that we continue to do that. But anyways, look, whether it's the what do you call it, cavitation machine, the cool sculpting machine,
doesn't that sound awful?
I mean, love yourself, people. Cavitation.
I mean, doesn't that sound like a horrible procedure? I don't even know. It's just ultrasound that they zap your fat, which can't be pleasant. But
I'm sure there has to be some sort of feeling there.
They're
Maybe they
liquefying
numb you or something.
your fat in your body cavity. Cavitation. Yeah. No. I mean, the whole thing sounds just no.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Stop emailing me cavitation anal
All
leakage.
of it is no. All of it is no. And again, I'm speaking as someone who's never had anything done before. And I'm not knocking people that want to get Botox or a facelift or whatever you want to do to your body, but there is a risk. And if it goes wrong, was it really, really bad? Like, did it look that bad? I'm sure Linda Evangelista was like, damn it. It was just a little nip or tuck, and then it turned into something else. So just love yourself, people. Really, really try to. Okay, let me give some thank yous really quickly to people that donated to our super chat, and then we'll do some headlines, and then we'll come back. We'll delve into Meta, the lawsuit surrounding Meta and the bad news there. I do want to also talk about something happening in Kim's neck of the woods, which is this Petaluma mobile home park that is raising rent, and then not like, to add insult to injury, what they did to these people, instead of just saying, oh, you know what, we're going to like double your rent, is they took the money without asking. So we'll talk about that. And If anybody lives in a mobile home park, I'd love to get your guys' take on this because I don't quite understand the raising of rents except greed. A big thank you, though, to Lori, $6.88 from Daniel D. I love you, Lori, and thank you, Daniel. You are so very generous. John with a $10 super sticker. Thank you, John.
Very
And
cool.
Jim started us off even before the show with a $5 super
What
sticker.
up, Jim Slayton?
Yeah, you just look for that dollar sign under the live chat box, and all that money goes to us, of course, after Google takes their take. So if you want to donate, Patreon is the number one way because that's the every monthly subscription we totally depend on. Go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and sign up for that. PayPal takes the least. So if you want to go to PayPal.com, hit the send money button, and then just put in the show's email, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com, and you can donate there as well. Okay, so let's do some headlines and then more chit chat. We'll keep it out of potty humor at least for a little bit. Here's
man.
I know. Oh man.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Several important political figures attending a tribute service for the late former First Lady Rosalind Carter this afternoon. That includes, of course, former President Jimmy Carter, President Biden, and First Lady Jill Biden. The formal funeral is set to take place tomorrow. The director of the CIA is reportedly in Qatar to discuss a further extension of the truce between Israel and Hamas. Yesterday, the temporary pause in fighting was extended an additional 2 days, this to allow for the release of hostages and detainees on both sides. Meanwhile, both sides are claiming there have been violations in the ceasefire's agreement. Hunter Biden is willing to testify before Congress in the House's investigation into his actions, but only if he can do so publicly. The president's son's legal team said that in a letter to the House Oversight Committee. Hunter Biden's attorneys accused the House of using closed-door sessions to manipulate, even distort the facts and misinform the public.
What do you think? You think he should, they always say, don't take the stand. Like, lawyers do not necessarily want their clients to take the stand because then you get the cross and then you could lose your ass, right? So what do you think?
It's different in a congressional hearing.
Oh,
right?
I see what you're saying. Okay. So this is a congressional hearing, not the court case.
Yeah, this is a congressional hearing, and this is where they keep having these closed-door sessions, right? There's Hunter. And so I agree with him. If he's going to testify before Congress in this whole House investigation thing, then let the people hear it. Stop doing the closed door thing. And then what happens is then they come out, some of the people that are so staunchly against him and say, oh, now we have the smoking gun. Oh, guess what he said. And it turns out that he may not have said that or nothing happened. So let us all hear it. If you
also think that maybe he wants to defend his father and be like, look, my dad did not have anything to do with this, because there is no line. Even Republicans' own witnesses have said, yes, Hunter said X, Y, and Z, but Joe Biden wasn't part of that at all. There was no connection there. People just want to make the connection because it's obvious. It's his son. I get it. I totally understand it. You have to prove that Biden was doing something illegal or against the law or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Nepotism, not nepotism, but name dropping, that every single child of any single high profile person, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's a politician, has name dropped their parent to get something. That's how the world works. So it's not nice. It sucks for us that don't have those names, but everybody has done it that has a name to drop. Stop it.
I feel like he must feel awful.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, now imagine going through all that addiction and all that stuff and coming out the other side of it. Your dad's president, and now your name is the one that's dragging him down. And your dad hasn't done anything wrong, but you're the person. I mean, it has to feel awful and bad. I think you're right.
Yeah, the naked pictures, the guns, obviously the drug use. But everyone keeps forgetting that Joe Biden, first and foremost, before a president, is a father. He is this guy's father, this guy that has drug problems, mental problems, spiraled after his brother's death, all sorts of things. To act like Joe Biden is not going to answer a phone call from his own son, who gives a crap who was on the other, who his son was in the room with, It's your kid. You're going to answer the phone. That doesn't make you guilty of anything. It's insane to think. And again, and I've said this before, if you can prove it that Joe Biden did something wrong, is directly connected, then prove it. And then we'll discuss what you've proven and what the consequence should be. I'm not saying that there's nothing there. You have to prove it. It can't just be he accepted a phone call from his son. No crap. Like, that's what parents do, especially when you have a kid with problems. Especially when you have a kid with problems. It's unfair to judge him on that.
So it will be interesting to see if they allow him to testify openly.
I hope so. I mean, if it helps him. Yeah, we'll see.
Nikki Haley, GOP presidential hopeful, picking up a big endorsement from a Republican super PAC. The Political Action Network, financed largely by billionaire Charles Koch, has endorsed the former South Carolina governor's bid for the White House. It's seen as a major boost to Haley's campaign as viable Republican alternative to former President Trump. So she gets a big bump there.
You know what? I don't agree with Nikki Haley on policy. I sure as hell don't agree with her on reproductive rights or anything like that. If she was the nominee, I would be like, at least we have somebody that's not Trump. Again, I'm not going to like the Republican candidate. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden if he's the Democratic nominee, which
she lies. Like he will be. She lies about abortion. She lies about late-term abortion, and it bothers me a lot.
Absolutely, but
but would she be better than Trump?
Yes.
You better believe your ass she would be.
Anybody.
Except maybe Vivek Ramaswamy. Except him. Maybe.
Oh, God. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't have Trump light. How about that? No.
California is investing more money to fight homelessness.
Yeah.
A third round of grants helping cities and counties move people from encampments into housing. Half of the $300 million will go to Caltrans to clean up areas along state highways. Governor Gavin Newsom saying encampments are not safe for those living in them or for community members around them. Applications will be accepted through June or until the funds run out. So where can you afford to buy a house? Let's explore. It's getting a little cheaper to live in California. While 11 counties still have median home prices above $1 million, 25 counties in California are under the $500,000 mark. The latest sales data from the California Association of Realtors shows the far northern region is the cheapest, with Lassen and Siskiyou counties under $300,000. For the next level, under $400K, there are options in Plumas, Shasta, Tehama, Trinity, Tulare, Lake, Glen, Kern, Kings, and Merced counties. Basically, in order to afford to live in California, you have to move to, sorry if you live out there, everybody, Timbuktu.
Well, it is, but there's no jobs there. So you have to be able to buy your house outright, because not saying there's no jobs there, but not a lot. Unless you're able to work remotely, that would be awesome, right? But how many jobs are up there for a ton of people to move out there? I don't know. I mean, if you live in that area, tell me, because I can't imagine a lot.
What I'm looking at is, so in my region, this would be Lake County would be the closest to me.
Okay.
Well, every time I've been sent as a reporter to Lake County, it's been to cover a massive wildfire.
Yeah.
All right. I know from reporting there that a lot of these homes in a lot of these major fire zones are not able to be insured. There's a reason it's cheap to live there.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying.
It's going to be.
Not that it's not beautiful, not that it's not a lovely community, but it is high fire danger, and people that live there know that, and they accept the risk.
Yeah, and again, if you can't get insurance, though, then can you get a mortgage, right? Like, you have to be able to afford everything. Yeah, and you have to attract jobs. Again, I understand, wanting to open another business in San Francisco or somewhere more populated of the Bay Area. But if companies could invest in some of these areas that are more affordable for housing, you would attract people there too. So, it's a difficult thing, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Well, in the southern area, the most affordable homes are in San Bernardino and Riverside counties.
Interesting. So. All right. Vicky says that Lake County is a meth haven. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, also these places that are isolated, a lot of them do have some sort of, drug trade or something like that. I'm not saying all of them, but, and also if you have kids, and I know, and I'm going to make a huge assumption here. Okay. So forgive me. But I always feel like if you live in an area where there's not a lot to do, it creates a lot of idle hands and that can get into mischief or worse. And so I like the fact of living in an area where there's a lot of different classes, opportunities, and things like that, because if not, kids will find something to do, and that can be dangerous.
Yeah, looking at those counties, either it's the surface of the sun, so you're in the Central Valley, like living in hot zone, or you're living in the forest in a fire zone where there's, you're far away from cities,
Right.
really. Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
well, speaking of people with money to burn, Mark Cuban is ready to leave Shark Tank. Yep, it's true.
I like him the most on that show too. So that's kind of sad. It's sad news.
On the Showtime podcast, All the Smoke, Cuban said the next season of the ABC series will be his last.
Damn.
He says he's invested in hundreds of companies over the years, and he's proud that the show has inspired multiple generations of entrepreneurs, but it's time for him to check out. So,
I understand doing a show for that long. He also is working on, developing that pharmaceutical company, where they sell cheap drugs. They work with insurance agencies or they go around the insurance agencies. So hopefully he's focusing on that. He's given many interviews. You can Google it on how difficult kind of going up against big pharma really is. But I liked him. I thought that Mark Cuban, he was brash, but he was good. And so I liked him, but it's not like must watch every week TV, but when it's on, I like watching that show. It's interesting.
yeah, I'll catch it sometimes,
Yeah.
and it'll a product will catch my eye. There he is, Mark Cuban.
You know what
Yeah,
a product,
done.
it was made, there's a bunch of them obviously, but the Scrub Daddy, does anyone have a Scrub Daddy? That's the one that I have on my sink right now. My daughter loves her Scrub Daddy. That was a Shark Tank product.
What's a Scrub Daddy?
It's the yellow sponge that has the happy face on it.
Oh, I do. I have those. I love them.
That was, I think that started, I'm almost positive that was obviously it was created before that, but it got popular through Shark Tank.
They're super abrasive, so you have to use them on the right thing.
Yes, exactly. But
Yeah.
they're really easy to hold because the eye holes, and they can get it like forks and all kinds of weird shaped things because you could stick it in the hole. So yeah, awesome.
What can you do, Nikki?
You could stick it in the holes, baby.
Uh-huh, that's
and
exactly
scrub
right.
away. You just got to be delicate. You can't use it on every surface. So be careful.
Oh, this report is crowdfunded.
You don't have to ask me twice, baby. I know double entendre when I hear it. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it.
We do rely on you to help us fund this circus of a show that we've got going on. Please find us at the NikkiMedoroShow.com, the NikkiMedoroShow.com
Oh, there you
for the Patreon and the PayPal link and all the cool stuff on the Nikki Medoro website. I'm Kim McAllister on, you know it, she's beautiful, she's amazing.
I'm
It's
here.
the Nikki
I'm
Medoro
here.
Show. That's right.
I swear, I don't try to get too heavy in the morning because I know we start off this whole line of shows. Mark Thompson is next, and then the party at the end with the after party live. But I just do love to be silly on the show. I'm sorry, it's just the best. Okay, well, speaking of this show, we use social media obviously to kind of promote the show and promote our websites and our Patreons and everything on this show. And so I depend on social media. I depend on YouTube. I depend on, Facebook, Instagram, all sorts of things to kind of share reels and share information and to get new subscribers, which, by the way, make sure you're subscribed to the show. But Meta, I think, is having a moment in which they are really going to have to fundamentally change how they operate. This headline from Business Insider reads, Mark Zuckerberg can kiss hot Zuck summer goodbye. Instagram is in full crisis mode. So, as Kim's been mentioning in her news as well, it is really not taking the steps that people want to not only, make it so it's not a cesspool of conspiracy and everything like that, but to protect young people. So let's see, Instagram systems served jarring doses of salacious content to test accounts, inappropriate images of children, including risque footage of children, as well as overtly sexual adult videos and ads for some of the biggest U.S. brands. So basically what the Wall Street Journal did, it set up test accounts after observing that thousands of followers of young people's accounts often includes large number of adult men. And many of the accounts who follow those children also had demonstrated interest in sex content related to children.
No.
Sexually suggestive content was also shown between ads for big companies. Let's see. The test showed that following only the young girls triggered Instagram to begin serving videos from accounts promoting adult sex content alongside those major consumer brands, such as Walmart, for instance, that ran after a video of a woman exposing her crotch. This is also depressing because I just started following this account. There's this, Lean In. So there's like a Lean In Girls type of Instagram account. It ran an ad for Lean In Girls ran directly before a promotion for an adult sex content creator who often appears in schoolgirl attire. This doesn't need to. There is something wrong with the algorithm, right? The way the system was created by Meta that allows things like this to happen. They need to stop claiming that there's nothing they can do. That's BS, right? They can totally do this. Instagram is also facing a lawsuit from 33 states saying it ignored warnings on teen mental health. I want to show you a little bit of this interview that KTVU did talking about, what did Meta do and what did Meta not do to protect kids?
I'd say, Alex and Claudine, that this is a simple case where Meta has prioritized profits over people, and particularly children, for well over a decade. This is intentional design. This is the arms race for your and my kids' attention. And they have manipulated design elements so that kids will stay on the platform as long as possible. They could have solved the age verification issues and chose not to. They have coined money in the process, and now they're being held accountable by the attorneys general of the United States. And that's a very good thing.
And this is what it comes down to, is intent. I mean, this back and forth, the reason these documents are so important is because it's this back and forth of, we didn't know, we're trying, and you need to do more. And we've had this conversation back and forth. They seem to want to put the impetus now on parents and app stores and things like that to say, you guys need to check because the problem is so big. But intent is really where I think the documents hit the hardest.
That's right, Claudine. And, I wrote a book called Talking Back to Facebook, a very popular book in 2012, where I made these same claims. That's 11 years ago. Ugh. So for Facebook, now known as Meta, and Meta controls Instagram too, to say they didn't know about this is just bonkers. Of course they knew about it, and they intentionally designed products that would addict your and my kids. And that's a really big problem. I gave the keynote speech to the attorneys general of the United States 2 years ago and said, you should treat companies like Meta as the tobacco industry of the 21st century. And you should sue them in a class action suit and hold them accountable for the harms they're doing to children. That's what this lawsuit is. So we at Common Sense Media are very proud of that. But this is now going to be an incredibly important court case. It will have an implication not just for Facebook, Instagram, and the Meta products, but it will also impact the other big social media platforms, which is great news.
Yeah. So what do you think ultimately the implications of these lawsuits will be? What kind of changes, realistic changes are we likely to see at social media platforms like Meta as a result of what's revealed here? Yeah.
Alex, I think they're going to get held liable. I think when you have this many attorneys general join in, just like they did against the tobacco industry, that's a very good sign because they all agree. These are Republicans and Democrats from conservative states, liberal states, including Rob Bonta of California. But this is a no-brainer, the fact that they all came behind this. So I think they'll be held liable. I think that'll put them on the hook for hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of damages, but really fundamental changes in the design of their products. That would be great. Also, they're going to have to solve the age verification issue that the tech industry should have solved years ago. So bottom line is, this lawsuit should end up being a major win for kids and families here in California and across the country. We're proud to be part of it at Common Sense. And as a parent out there, please encourage healthy habits among your kids. Online habits. Make your kids aware that platforms like Instagram are designed to addict you and keep you engaged. Talk about stranger danger. Have regular conversations. In the end, kids are the biggest users of these platforms, and the platforms need to be held accountable for a pro-kid approach.
Yeah, so I just wanted to end it there. I mean, I also think it's also just like Jim Steyer, and he was with Common Sense Media, which is an awesome organization. It's on the parents to mirror this behavior. I do it all the time. So I was literally talking to one of my mom friends yesterday in the parking lot when I was waiting to pick up my kid. And we're talking about phones because my daughter lost her phone. And I had said, one, the change in personality, just the interaction, right? If they don't have their phone, they come out of their room. And I don't mind my daughter being in a room. I know that's the age and that sort of thing. But what she's doing in a room, the fact when I go in there, it's like, what do you want? Right? Instead of like, oh, there's somebody here to interact with me because I'm not interacting on my phone. I'm not constantly being fed entertainment. I'm not constantly having somebody else's ideas and thoughts in my mind. And I'm able to be bored. And that's what I was saying to my friend. It's like, when are kids bored anymore? When are they just, I have to figure out something to do to entertain myself? Because if not, there's something in their hand that will constantly entertain them. And if we know that they are not putting up the safeguards to keep our kids safe, why do we let them have it? Now, Chris, I understand this. Just get off social media. So for me personally, I try to mirror this behavior, which is really funny because back in my day, it was like, stop watching TV, get off the boob tube. Now it's like, okay, if you could just watch a football game instead of being on your phone, that's a little bit better because it's more social, right? You're watching with other people. You're not so isolated in your own phone. I always make sure I have a book on me. I always have some sort of book in my car or on the couch or something where it's, if I'm bored, I don't necessarily need to watch TV, and I definitely don't need to pick up my phone to be entertained. Now it is entertaining. And again, like I mentioned at the opening of this segment, I depend on social media. I depend on social media to keep this show going. I depend on social media for the help with the advertising. I'm not putting little girls in short skirts next to other ads, right? I'm not utilizing basically it's a hop, skip, and a jump from child pornography to promote something. That's not what I'm doing. And I'm also not promoting something that's going to give somebody a negative outlook on who they are as a person, which can happen very easily for teenagers. It's really difficult. So what do you guys do? Let me know in the comments. Do you do anything to regulate not just yourself, but your kids or people in your life's use of social media? Because you have to have a plan. Now for me, I have obviously for my kids, besides taking the entire phone away or taking access to everything away, there's screen time limits on there. You can only use it so much. And then if you want more, you have to ask me. If you keep asking me, I'm like, okay, you're done, right? Like if you want 15 more minutes, that's fine. If you want all day, that's a no. John says, not really much big social media companies can do when you have hundreds of millions of users posting content. Automated content bans don't really work. Have we really tried? I mean, that's, I think the question that Meta is going to be facing is Meta really trying to tweak its algorithm at least enough to make sure that either certain hashtags or certain phrases get reviewed, right? And I'm sorry, it is not written in our Constitution that the minute you want to post something on social media, it immediately has to be out there. There isn't. It's a private company. If it has to go through a review process, for instance, if you've ever tried to join a group on Facebook, you usually have to fill out questions and then an admin has to approve it. There's a little bit of a lag time. It's not instantaneous. No one's bitching and moaning about that. So if we have somebody and if we know that this uses a phrase or pictures or something that can be harmful, then what's the harm in slowing things down? John goes on to say, post a pic of your kids in a school uniform and it gets flagged as adult content. I'm okay with that. Why would that not be okay? Right? Why is it not okay to do something like that? Let's see. Chris says, literally giving teens a neurosis saying strangers are dangerous. The stranger danger thing. Kim, I don't know if you did the whole stranger danger conversation with your kids. I do it more as a gut check. Like you have to check your gut, right? Mm-hmm. One, I always tell my daughter, and this has been promoted many times before. I didn't make this up. No adult asks a kid for help. Doesn't happen. If an adult comes up to you and asks you for help, walk away, run away. There is no reason why an adult needs a child's help to find a dog, to find a missing person, or do anything like that. And we also have our secret code phrase, right? If somebody says that they're going to pick you up and I never told you that and you don't know this person, nope, unless they know the code phrase. Those are the sorts of things. I don't think that every stranger is dangerous because sometimes you need help. But you also need to listen to your gut. And if the person seems off, then the person seems off.
I will say I struggled with that, though, as far as wanting my kids to have their naive childhood and not have the ugliness slapped on them and have to worry about stuff like that versus preparing them. It's always a balance because you want them to be happy, free-spirited kids, but you also want to prepare them. And so it's this, well, when do you start preparing them? When do you start? And you have to keep them safe. So if you want to say this, you're giving kids a neuroses or whatever, that's fine, Chris. You and I disagree on a lot of things, but my first job as a parent is to keep my kids safe. Yeah. And so if that means that I have to say, listen, there are some creepy people in the world who might be out to harm you, heads up, Buttercup, then that's the way it is, right?
Yeah. And I do tell... I always, especially my daughter, which is wrong to say, but I have said this in front of my son as well. I go, people are perverts. I've said that many, many times. Not everybody is a pervert, but if you default to thinking like, you're trying to get over on me or you're trying to touch me weird or whatever, again, there's no adult that needs anything from a child. There's just not. And if they're trying to get you close to them or touch you or grab you, you tell. I've always told my kids, if anybody ever tells you, don't tell your mom and dad, you nod your head to get out of an uncomfortable or dangerous situation, and then you come run to me. And that's it. Like that, there's nothing bad that's going to happen to you because you tell. Lori says teachers are constantly told to model everything for kids, behavior, how to do work, etc. I tell parents they need to model appropriate use of all types of media for children. Excellent point. That's what I try to do. I'm not perfect at it. I try to show my children hey, we're going to go to the library. We've already set a date this week that we're going to go to the library because I have to return books and I want to get more books. But I try to bring them. I go, okay, we're going to sit in here. We're going to read. I tell them, we're going to turn off the TV. We're going to play a board game. Sometimes you have to be really intentional by saying, we're not going to be on the phone right now. We're not going to do those things. Because it's so easy. It is so easy. My husband and I fall into this trap. Not so much me and my kids, but we'll be sitting next to on the couch and all we are doing is sending funny memes and showing each other funny videos on our phone. It could seem like we're interacting together, but we're not really, right? So it's a difficult balance, and it's not just kids that are victims of it. It's us as well. And so you're absolutely right, Lori. We have to watch ourselves and how much we use social media in a way that's not productive. If you have a business, if I'm doing the show on YouTube, I don't consider this a bad use of social media because we're actually being social, right? We're talking with each other, we're debating things, we're laughing together, those sorts of things. Scrolling mindlessly on TikTok or Snapchat or Facebook or Instagram with no real purpose, an hour can go by. And the other thing that I always tell my kids also is I say, imagine if somebody was watching you from the outside, documenting your life, doing a documentary on your life. How interesting would this moment be? And how interesting would the next hour be? Are you just going to be this person that just looks like this all day? This is your life? This is your life, just looking down at your phone all day long, not going out, not talking, not laughing, not even walking around, just sitting on your bed, looking at a screen. Not very interesting, I would say. And I would think that you'd want some of those moments back on your deathbed, Absolutely.
One of the things about my daughter having COVID over the Thanksgiving break was that she was tired of looking at a screen because she was quarantined to her room. For the last 2 nights, she has emerged from her room in search of conversation.
Yes, I can imagine.
We've had the best talks. Last night, we talked all about all the kids at school and the different friend groups and boyfriends and all kinds of things. And, who has a boyfriend and, she's ready for that kind of stuff yet and what have you. The night before, we had a conversation about drugs.
Oh, good.
And all the drugs that are going on at school and vaping and what vapes look like and, what she thinks about all these things. And so it's been just so interesting to let her talk and open up and hear that. And if you're constantly looking at a screen, these are the kinds of things you miss.
Yeah. Jim says, I'm so addicted to my phone. I'll text somebody in the same house because they're in another room.
Guilty.
Oh, guilty. Totally. Yeah. I've done that. But I also yell. So it's either I yell, because it's basically laziness. I don't want to get out. Usually I'm in bed. I'm like, I'm not getting out of my warm bed. And so I'll just either yell or I'll text. And I feel like texting is a bit nicer.
Usually somebody's in their room or in the back of the house and I'm in another, so I could holler for them.
Right.
I guess I could get off my ass and walk back and talk to people.
Right.
But usually it's easy just to say, I could use your help with this, or what are you doing back there, or whatever.
Yeah. It's just hard. And you want to have memories with your kids, but it's becoming even harder. It's funny. Last night I watched this old movie, and it's not old for us, but it's old. I was watching with Dylan. It's called Bounce. It's an old Ben Affleck, Gwyneth Paltrow movie. It's old, so spoiler alert. Basically, the premise is that Ben Affleck switched airline tickets with the husband of Gwyneth Paltrow, and the plane went down, the husband died, and whatever. The story continued. But there's this point in the movie, to bring it to what we're talking about, where Gwyneth Paltrow looks at her young son, and he's like, "Can I go play on the computer?" And she's like, "Yes." She's like, "CD-ROM, not AOL." And I was like, and I looked at Dylan, and I was like, "Did you get that?" And he's like, "I have no idea what she's talking about." And I was like, because AOL costs money, right? Like you had to pay for it, like when you were on, and your phone bill and all that. And like he had to use a CD-ROM with the game and put it in. And it was so funny trying to explain this to a kid who has everything in his hand, how quickly time has changed. I mean, again, I said this yesterday, the 90s, we didn't have any of this crap. And I still think the 90s were 10 years ago, but it wasn't. It was a long time ago.
So I was at the PTA meeting.
Okay.
Recently, like I want to say last week. And this woman did this whole presentation about how children shouldn't have cell phones all the way in through their teen years.
Right. Yes.
And she said there used to be a movement called Wait Till 8th.
Yes.
Remember Wait Till 8th?
That. Yeah, right,
where you didn't give a kid a cell phone until they were in 8th grade, right? Which is about 13-ish years old. And I subscribe to that. Like, that's fine. There's no reason my 4th grader needs a cell phone. That's not necessary. And so she was saying even that's too much. And then, of course, she went on to describe all the ills of social media and phones, as if we all don't know this, right? And so then she said, you're in charge. Give them a flip phone.
Yes,
through high
dumb
school.
phone, a dumb phone, yeah.
A dumb phone if they need to contact you, so that's the only thing it does. Like, it doesn't have internet, it doesn't have social media, it doesn't have all these things. And I'm thinking to myself, lady, wait till you have a teenager.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It's
because
hard.
It's just not being realistic. She's not being realistic at all.
No.
And so I'm kind of chuckling to myself, like, wasting half an hour of my life listening to this presentation thinking, when's this going to be over? Because it's not realistic. In a perfect world, listen, I was the one who wasn't going to let my kid have social media, right?
Yeah. Well, best laid plans.
And now she's on Snap.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I will say this. I think on one hand, the dumb phone idea, like, it sounds like a fabulous idea. And again, like I was mentioning, and it's only been a day, but the personality and the behavior of kids without their phones, and it happens quickly. It's very gratifying, actually. The return on investment can be very quick, as long as I would say this, I'm not punishing my daughter. Like, we're just working on something. We're working on our goals and our schoolwork. And while she was not happy by any means, we weren't fighting, right? So it wasn't like we were getting into this really huge fight about it. It was just what it was. I was making a parental decision and she had to live with it. And because of that, I feel like the change happened really quickly and she wasn't taking anything negative out on me, right? If I was fighting with her about something, like she did something terrible, like, for instance, I don't know, if she was older and didn't come home and I snatched it away and there's a whole fight, I could see the return on investment of taking the phones taking a little bit of time. But the thing is, it's similar to how kids won't admit it, but they want to be parented, right? Kids want you to care about where they are. They want you to look after them. They want you to, check their homework. Even if in the moment they don't, the opposite of not caring at all, being that kid who's like, I don't know, my parents don't care when I get home, or they don't care that I'm failing. Kids really don't want that, right? And so I do think that even though they'll cry and they'll scream, they'll be like, "Oh, you take away my phone." I think intellectual deep down, they know it's better for them. right? They know that it's better. They know that they're being distracted. They know that they need to have these guardrails on them. At least I hope so. That's how I believe. I really do think when I ask my kid, what kind of solution is there to, being prepared for our finals other than removing distractions, she looked at me like, there really isn't one, right? Like you have to do this. And I feel like when you really explain it to them and respect the fact that they're included in this conversation and you're not just dictating without an explanation, that the guardrails are okay, and it really is.
I love what Heather says. The thing is, she says it's not the 90s anymore.
No.
The entire world has changed. Some of these anti-tech viewpoints just really aren't realistic for the world around us. We're not living in 1980 anymore.
No.
It's 2023.
Even education's not the same. They need the phone, right? Like how many, we have Chromebooks, but honestly, Kim, I mean, you have to know this. Teachers are like, okay, check your email, check that. It's not. Can you imagine the kid with the flip phone, the dumb phone coming out like, I don't know how to do that. Like, no, you don't want to make them behind technologically because as they move forward, they're going to need the knowledge. But at the same time, it shouldn't be another appendage, right? There needs to be a separation.
Yeah. Flo says perhaps parents and schools can focus on their kids learning the art of conversation and the appreciation of it at an early age, long before cell phones and exposure to social media sets in. Agree.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I did, but phones they're made to be addictive. And I think going back to why we started talking about this, that's what Meta did. They knew what they were doing. The likes and the colors and everything. It's our brains. They figured out how to give us that dopamine hit so that we keep checking, so we keep getting that heart or whatever, right? And so it's not 100%, oh my God, we didn't expose our children to conversations at the dinner table or art or anything like that. Of course, my kids went to all sorts of things, but this is more enticing. This gives that payout over and over and over again.
And you're right about school and everything. I'll ask Julia, hey, did you make sure you turned in this whatever assignment? And she'll go, oh, hold on, let me check. And then she'll log on and see if she turns, made sure to hit send on whatever assignment it was.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So this is the kind of the way of the world. This is the way education has changed.
Yeah.
Kids need this technology. It doesn't mean that we can't regulate it. And it doesn't mean that I don't know everything she's doing on there. And it doesn't mean that at night, I don't want her to turn the phone into me and keep it in my room overnight.
Oh, yeah. It's not like I don't have, the guardrails, the screen time, the scanning of the phones or anything like that. I will say there's things I love about it. I could track my kid, right? I mean, nowadays being out and about, although, I mean, our kids aren't at that age yet, but my friend that lives in Idaho, kids nowadays, they'll just throw their phones in a bush at the home that they're supposed to be at, get a burner phone and leave. Like, that's what you have to be aware of. You have to check your Wi-Fi. Check your Wi-Fi. Make sure there's no unusual phones attached to your Wi-Fi, which can be a burner phone, right? So, oh yeah, sure, Mom, you can have this phone, and then they're doing whatever with another phone in their bedroom. So you just got to be aware of all that.
God, I wouldn't
have
even thought of that. Look at you.
I have friends with older kids, man. I was visiting her. She had come from Idaho over the Thanksgiving vacation. The stories, Kim, and I'm just like,
really?
I'm not ready. I'm so not ready. And yet at the same time, you got to go through it. The next 5 years, right? The next 5 years are going to be insane.
Perhaps I'm in denial, but I don't think that all kids are like that.
I don't think that all kids are going to be bad. I think that all kids are going to be exposed to this. I think that all kids are going to know kids that do that. Absolutely. Are all kids going to break curfew all the time, drink and drive, do whatever? No. Are they going to be exposed to it? Yes. So then that's where the parenting and the morality that you're raising your kid with, the good values, virtues, safety skills, all those sorts of things are going to come in handy. But yeah, I think you're fooling yourself if you think that Julia or Jacob aren't going to know people that do this. Like,
oh yeah,
my daughter.
Oh no, all bets are off with Jacob. Trust. Love the kid. I adore him. He's so amazing. He also has zero impulse control.
Right.
So with him, things are going to be a little more challenging. So I'm ramping up to it.
Yeah. Maturity can bring stuff, and that sort of thing. But again, you guys are good parents. So you just but it's amazing. You can have two kids. They grow up in the exact same household with the exact same parents, and they're just
Totally different.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay, I want to let you guys know that tomorrow I'm going to have a special guest on the show. His name is Kevin Adler. I'd actually interacted with him. I interviewed him years ago when I was still at KGO. He's having this event tomorrow in Scotts Valley. He has a new book out on homelessness. He was the guy, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. It's called Miracle Messages. What he did was he would go and try to connect families with people living on the streets, send them messages and try to connect them again, because sometimes you just lose track of people. Well, he has this new book called When We Walk By, and it talks about homelessness and what we can do and how this is basically a shared crisis. It's not just a problem of the unhoused. It's a problem for the housed as well. And what he thinks are effective and ineffective strategies, how NIMBYism, kind of this pull yourself up from your bootstraps ideas, all these sorts of ideas really make it hard to make progress. And I'm going to ask him, how do we change what we think is the problem with what he sees as the problem? So that's going to be tomorrow in the 10 o'clock hour. So during the second part of the show. But the reason I wanted to mention it now is because I want to, just in the last, 10 minutes or so that we have, I want to talk about what's happening in Petaluma. Now, I mentioned this to Kim because obviously she's my Petaluma girl.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this Petaluma mobile home park, Youngstown Mobile Home Park. It's off North McDowell Boulevard. Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
Okay. So apparently,
I mean, I know where it is. I've driven past it.
Right. So residents there are saying without notice, $3 increase to their monthly rent. And
that's 50%, right?
Well, some of them are saying it's 100%.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that's, I think it depends on how much you're doing. They said it was showing up in the online payment portal the day before Thanksgiving. It was an automatic deduction from their accounts. Now, the park's owner was saying that this was a mistake, whatever. But they've been fighting this for months. They're saying for months, the group has organized and grown to fight the park owner, 3 Pillar Communities, over the 100% rise in rent that was first announced in July. It unexpectedly showed up in their accounts last week. It's going to arbitration. But they're supposed to get this back because apparently it was supposed to not be an automatic deduction.
No.
But they're still raising the rent. Now, here's my question. What leads to the rise in rent? Now, I understand somebody I think had mentioned earlier, it's the increase in upkeep on the grounds. A 100%, even a 50%, whether it's 50 or 100% rise. Does that not seem way too high?
Yeah.
Now, and we're also talking about a 55 and over community. Where are they supposed to get an extra $925 a month? Where? I feel like there needs to, and maybe I'm wrong, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. Am I wrong here? Because I understand it's a business and blah, 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 blah. But this is the land that 55 and olders live on. Where are they going to get the money?
You've got a mobile home, right?
Yes.
I don't know how much that costs to move somewhere else.
It's sometimes, I don't know if they can even do
how hard it is
necessarily.
to find. I think you can put them on a truck and have them hauled away, but it costs you a pretty penny to do it.
Exactly.
And where are you going to move it to? That isn't all expensive as well, or subject to the same type of rent increase that what happened here. That's dangerous. I think it's,
So this issue is going to go to arbitration where a judge will decide what increase, if any. So it's going to go to arbitration is appropriate. Arbitration is required under Petaluma's rent stabilization ordinance if a property owner wants to push for a substantial increase in monthly rent. And this isn't the only one. Little Woods Mobile Villa, also in Petaluma, received letters informing them of a 300% increase. Avalon Mobile Home Park in Castro Valley is also in arbitration over proposed increases. Look, I don't know if this is even legal to do, but I feel like if you're going into the business of having a 55 and over community, it should be rent controlled. Because where these are people that are retired. You're making a limitation on who can rent there, right? You have to be 55 and older. Yeah. And there should be rules to protect those people. There just should. They're not making any more money.
They're on retired. A fixed income. If anybody can't afford it, it's them.
They're leading to they're going to contribute to the homeless crisis. If California is putting $300 million or whatever it is in grants towards reducing homelessness, we can't, with the other hand, allow a mobile home park or any sort of business to raise rents astronomically where no one's going to be able to afford to live there. And where are all those people going to end up? They're going to end up on the streets of Petaluma or the surrounding areas with nowhere to go. I don't know what the answer is. One person was saying people are afraid. They don't know if they're going to have a place to live today, tomorrow, next week, next month. How would you feel if that was you? Now, the city zoned the neighborhood as low income senior housing, but some fear they could be wiped out financially with nowhere else to go. If it's zoned for low income senior housing, it needs to say low income. It just does. You don't have to get into the business of having a 55 and over mobile home park. Nobody told you you had to do that. But if that's the business that you choose, then I'm sorry. Now, I will say this. How do you feel about this? So let's say you're in a 55 and over community.
Yeah.
And you decide to move out, or unfortunately, if you pass away. Now, I'm not saying you should be able to raise the rent 300%, but that would be the only time that you can adjust the rent. And it has to be similar to the rent increases that are allowed for anybody. What is it? 5-8%, something like that is allowed for a year. Even that, though, if it's a low income senior housing, they're not making. It should be tied to the increase in, I don't know, Social Security or Medicare or something like that, right? Where are they going to get the money?
It's scary to be at the whim of someone else.
Yes.
To not know when your rent is going to be increased and whether you're going to be able to stay there, whether your home's going to be taken away.
Yeah.
We need to fix this. This is bad.
Jim says there's some big corporation buying up mobile home parks all around California. Yeah, this is not new. This isn't new. There was one here in San Jose. Forgive me, I forget the name of it. It was near the Century Theaters, I think. And they were demolishing it. They were trying to move all these people out. And it's like, where are these people going to go? If you don't have a plan, then you're contributing to homelessness, and that should not be allowed.
I mean, they obviously live there because it's a cheaper alternative anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're literally doing this. And again, this is why I'm a huge proponent, and I know that it's not possible for everyone. I'm not saying that. I'm a renter. Okay, I get it. But, if you do own a home, that you should aim to have it paid off before you ever retire, because getting rid of that mortgage, not having that over your head. I mean, obviously a property taxes and things like that. But again, it's something that unless you are continuing to work throughout your quote unquote retirement or old age, then you're screwed. Yeah. Jim has a counterpoint. Low income standards are rising in California. So going from 900 to 1800 is not violating that zoning. That's crazy. Unless your wages, that is the problem. It's the math. People are raising the price of housing, rents, and wages are flat or going down because of inflation. So it's insane. And then they look at people like, pull yourself up from your bootstraps. What friggin' bootstraps? I had to sell them to pay last month's rent, right? It's insane, and it sucks, and it's sad, and it's scary, and we have to do something about it. There has to be more laws. Louis says it was Winchester Ranch. Thank you. Was that mobile home park I was talking about earlier? It's just, it's sad. It's really, really, I feel for these people. And I don't know if, Petaluma's prepared for an influx of homeless senior citizens on their streets.
No, usually when this happens, somebody steps in and tries to ease the situation and negotiate some lower rent. I do want to throw out that, I know we're at the end of the show, that I just saw a breaking story out of the North Bay.
Please tell us.
Do you remember the stabbing at Montgomery High School?
Yes.
In Santa Rosa?
Yeah.
Where a kid stabbed another kid in a classroom.
Right.
And one child, 15-year-old, died, and the freshman ran off and was arrested, right? Well, apparently the teen that was the stabber in that was just found not responsible for the death of the other student. Yeah. This former Montgomery High School freshman was not responsible for the fatal stabbing death of a fellow student during an altercation in a classroom earlier this year, according to a juvenile court judge's ruling that happened today.
Is that because he was claiming self-defense because the person that he stabbed had been bullying him?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. That's quite the ruling. I can't imagine the family of the person that was stabbed.
the kid will go to juvie on a weapons charge for bringing a weapon to school, but not on a manslaughter charge for the killing.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's a child. I want to think that there's some kind of rehabilitation. If you send someone away for, I don't know, as long as you can, then what does that do to them? On the other hand, there's a family without a kid right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm torn. I really don't know.
Yeah.
They're saying that the other child that was stabbed to death had slashed the kid's tires and had been threatening him.
Yeah. I can understand. I can understand being scared to go to school and being fed up. I can understand that. At the same time, you can't kill people. You can't kill people.
The police resource officer had been removed from the school, right? Because take the police away. So there was all this. And so for all these things, I guess this is why the child wasn't found to be responsible.
Wow.
I don't know. There's a lot of anger over this decision today.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow to know who stabbed and killed a kid, and that person's not found guilty. On the other hand, that happens all the time in adult cases too, right? There's circumstances where you're like, okay, you're not guilty of manslaughter. I'm assuming the kid's going to juvie and not free, right?
That's right.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
He'll be in juvie for 2 to 3 years on a weapons charge, according to the
which I'm
Press
sure
Democrat.
is really going to rehabilitate this kid. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Again, Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation never seems to put enough emphasis on the rehabilitation part, but that's
sorry to end it on a down note, but I thought that was important to mention. I know.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Kim.
Yeah. Woo! Good job, Kim.
Well, let's give a thumbs up to Kim before we leave. Again, stay right here. Mark Thompson is next, of course, with Kim McAllister, and then Kim and John Daly do the after party live. Again, thank you to everybody that donated to our super chat. Jim started us off with $5. Then
Thanks,
John
Jim.
came in with 10.
Thanks,
Lori, Daniel's donation of $6.68.
Lori, what up, you?
Thank you. Blue Spark, thanks for the funny today. Thanks, Blue Spark, for the $10. And Jess says, y'all are great examples to my teen daughter. Thank you. Thank you for the $5 and the compliment, Jess. We love being here with all of you. We will be back tomorrow. Again, Kevin Adler will be talking about homelessness. Please make sure you subscribe to our monthly Patreon. Please, 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 please. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. We appreciate all of you official Medorables. Sign up for our Patreon. You can donate any amount. The PayPal email is TheNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. All of the links, including the links to my favorite things, go buy your bidet, go buy your sleep mask, go buy all sorts of things, is found in the show notes. Just look for the link tree to my favorite things. I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.